Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laser Focus. This is the deep dive pop culture podcast from Nerdist. I'm Kyle Anderson. Thank you for listening. It's July has been a good movie month. I'm very excited to continue to talk about July movies. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Superman lately. I've talked last week about Jurassic, whatever it is anymore. And this week we have another huge movie to talk about. Hopefully you got to watch it. As always, will be a spoiler-filled discussion. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you will want to do that. And that movie, of course, is Marvel's The Fantastic Four: First Steps, the last Marvel movie for a year, which is bananas.
Yeah.
Not the last Marvel thing, but the last Marvel movie for a year. And that
Mhm.
voice you just heard is a friend of the show. I believe this is your third or fourth appearance on the show. I can't remember.
Cool. 3 Timers Club, 4
Three,
Timers Club, whatever it
yeah,
is.
whatever Timers Club it is. That,
Mhm.
of course, is he is one of the hosts of Heroes Reforged. He's one of the hosts of Dork Souls, a relatively new podcast,
Yeah.
and just being around the nerd sphere. I just actually watched your appearance on Dropout when you were talking about cooking or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that was fun. That, of course, is Hector Navarro. Hey, bud, how are you?
So great. Thank you so much for having me. So excited to talk about this movie and all the nerd stuff. It has been a great month.
Yeah, it's felt like we were waiting for something like this for a while, and but
Yeah.
obviously Superman was at the beginning of July, and Fantastic Four is here at the end of July, right before Comic Con.
Mhm. Mhm.
In one of the rare times, you and I got to see both of these movies together, and then actually
Mhm.
spend a decent amount of time talking about them, like
Mhm.
right afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, we'll get into Superman just a little bit, just because I want to, because after you watch Superman, you were saying you're going to need to sit with it a little bit. Now that you've had time to sit with it,
Yeah.
what is your thoughts on what are your thoughts on Superman here a
Well,
couple weeks later?
we were saying, sitting next to each other at this Fantastic Four screening, I was saying, like, because I have so much baggage with these characters and
Yeah.
these properties that, like, the first time watching one of these movies is not the most fun experience. I'm very, like, anxious. I'm very, like, my brain is working overtime, figuring stuff out, connecting things, clicking things. And so with Superman, I enjoyed it way more the second time. Little things that I thought bothered me the first time around, maybe the depiction of Lex Luthor. I think Nicholas Hoult is a phenomenal actor, but I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I love this style of Lex," for example. Second time around, I was like, "Actually, this is all great." And
Mhm.
it so worked for me. I love the messaging behind the movie. I love the cast. I love the fun that the movie has. I love the emotional moments, and I found myself getting really choked up with the scene where Lois says to him, I keep going back to that line. Lois says to him, like, "You like, put so much trust in everybody, and you act as though everyone you've ever met is beautiful." And I'm like, "Thank God that they're just spelling it out in this Superman movie." Reminds me of my favorite depictions of the character in comic books, reminds me of, like, Mark Waid's Superman and Superman
Mm.
Birthright. The characters that just absolutely care about people and they care about saving lives. And I've loved, like, the think pieces where since the Superman movie came out where people are like, "No, Clark's right about conflict and war in the world." Like, he's right. It should be that simple that people were going to die. That's why he intervened with something. And for us to try and take an idea like that and a messaging like that and try and make it more nuanced sometimes, I think is wrong, especially with a character like Superman. So some of the previous iterations in the movies or even some of the comics, things like, I remember I when I did these interviews for Nerdist and asked David Corenswet, the actor, like, "What are you looking forward to?" And he said, "I love that James Gunn is doing different tones in all of these different projects, but they're still gonna be in the same sort of shared universe." And that does feel a little bit new. It feels like it's something that Marvel Studios hasn't really done until recently, and only because, like, well, now we have Deadpool, so we're gonna do a rated R movie. Do you know what I mean? Versus, like, well, you guys could have done a rated R movie in 2014, or you could have done anyway, David Cornsett was talking about that and going, I would love to have my character show up in a much different tone project, whether it's like a detective story like Lanterns or something else. And people in the comments were like, Injustice, do Injustice. And I'm like, that wouldn't work. It would not. It's a completely separate thing. And so, like, the Injustice, The Boys, Invincible, which I love, all of those stories that actually take the idea of, like, what if Superman were evil or turns evil and pushes it all the way? It's interesting. But I think what's more important and sometimes more brave is to go back to the idea of Superman as a concept for kids, for young people, and to remind us like people were going to die. It should just be that
Yeah.
simple. You shouldn't try, you know what I mean? You shouldn't try to add nuance and go, well, your heroes aren't perfect. No, but Superman isn't real. He's an idea. Anyway, the
Yeah.
point is, really, really love the film. So excited to kinda keep revisiting it.
Mhm.
Um, so excited to download the soundtrack and sit and read Superman comics. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kinda all in and even fell in love with the movie more. And I told you the same thing with Fantastic Four. As soon as the credits rolled, I was like, "That was honestly stressful. Galactus is stressful. I think I'm gonna enjoy this more the second time." It was, like, less fun to watch than
Yeah.
Superman. It was less fun to watch than some other popcorn movies, because it had that sci-fi, interstellar,
Mhm.
we'll get into spoilers whenever you pull the trigger, Kyle, and then we can jump into it. But like some stuff, I was like, "This is crazy. I am stressed." So I know that I'm going to enjoy the movie more the second time.
Right. It's really interesting, like, what was it? A couple months ago, I made a video, like, saying how excited I am for, both of these movies to embrace the Silver Age, because I think the Silver Age is
Absolutely.
something that, uh, it's been so modern agey for the last little bit, and even, like,
Hmm.
looking back at, um, the other Fantastic Four movies, like, there's the Tim Story movies, which are silly, but, like,
Hmm.
kind of closer in tone, but they're modern day, and then obviously the Josh Trank Fantastic Four is so gritty and, like, whatever, and it's
Hmm.
just a bad movie, but, how kind of I feel like intrinsically tied to the '60s the Fantastic Four is, and my favorite depictions of the Fantastic Four are the ones that really steer into it. Not necessarily like silliness in tone, but like
Hmm.
they are kind of a weird group of characters, and I like that there's kind of family squabbling, but there's also like crazy high concept science stuff, and
Absolutely.
that's hugely in the movie. But it's so weird watching both of these, and having more time to sit with Superman, because that one had to do so much. There was so much
Yes.
writing on Superman, and
Yes.
it is a packed movie. It has a lot in it. Whereas I feel like Fantastic Four kind of didn't have to do that much, and in
I
fact
think it yeah, I
didn't.
think it took pressure off of itself by being like, "Well, this is its own universe." And as I was watching this, I was like, "This is so." There's lots of reasons for it. First and foremost, I think it's just a great excuse to do something stylistically different,
Yes,
right?
very much.
Visually different. They already put it in one of the little commercials, TV spots, trailers, those little TikTok ads, but some critic somewhere said it's like a live action Incredibles. So I'm like, that's the number one reason I think they did it. But number two, it's almost like a little backdoor excuse to go, well, if everyone hates this movie, they stay in their universe and we don't have to, maybe they're going to be in Avengers Doomsday and probably Avengers Secret Wars, but like would Marvel Studios have abandoned this whole thing and been like, all right, if we do the Fantastic Four again, they'll be in the sacred timeline, it'll be new actors, it'll be more modern because that's what audiences wanted. Thankfully, from the response so far from these like sort of like early screenings and the premiere and stuff, at the time of this recording, it's that movie hasn't come out yet at the end of the
Yeah.
weekend here. It's about to come out so everyone can see it, but everybody really loves the style and the tone. And more importantly, I think everybody really loves these actors. I love these actors. So I think we're all rooting for them to kind of keep going forward. I think that the other main reason, as I was thinking about why they're in their own universe, is stylistically, it's one thing, but like watching the beginning of the movie, I was like, is there any way that this same story could have just been done in the mainline MCU? And as soon as Galactus enters the picture, I went, nope, could not have. Galactus is he's a character that's so tied to the Fantastic Four, as he should
Mhm.
be. Like you were saying, like this character, Silver Surfer, the Inhumans, Black Panther, all of these amazing concepts spun out of that really creative time in the early 60s comics with Fantastic Four, with Jack Kirby leading the charge, with Stan Lee writing his ass off, doing a great job with the dialogue, doing a great job with the captions. But it was such like the engine of creativity that Marvel had, and Galactus is so tied into the Fantastic Four. If this movie was like the same cast, but these characters, think about this for a second. Think about the hypothetical of Matt Shackman's WandaVision, that moment where Monica Rambeau said, "I know the perfect guy who can build this vehicle that we need to punch through this dimensional barrier," or whatever. Everybody on the internet was like, "That's Reed Richards. That's gotta be a Reed Richards pre-powered, before he's stretchy, like, this is just a scientist guy." And imagine if it was Pedro Pascal, maybe he shows up in that show, maybe he shows up in another movie later, and it's the same cast, and they're just in the MCU in the current day. When Galactus shows up, it would have involved the Avengers, Sam Wilson, Bruce Banner would have showed up, Jennifer Walters would have showed up, She-Hulk. It would have involved like Shuri and Wakanda. All these people putting in their resources, Shield, Nick Fury, Carol Danvers, their like sword, observation satellite or whatever. It would have been an Avengers movie. And I think that budget-wise, they're like, that's out of the question. But to go back to that original The Coming of Galactus, or even the times where Galactus would return to Earth, like during the John Byrne run of Fantastic Four comics in the 80s, like it really tends to focus in on Reed Richards, Susan Storm, their family. Like they're the ones that sort of solve the problem of Galactus. So I think that for them to be in the 60s, it was also for a way for them to go, no other superhero characters. It's just them. They have to solve Galactus. And so I think that helped me almost come to terms with it because I'm still, I still have many, many questions about the larger world and like
Mhm.
what their goals are, what their vision is for the future of these characters. We can get into that later too. I've
Yeah.
got my theories, I've got my thoughts, but this movie on its own is self-contained. It's accessible. It has a beginning, middle, end. It still has like Marvel teases and little Easter eggs and all that fun stuff. Oh, they referenced other villains. That's so fun. Um, John Malkovich was cut out. I would have liked to have seen him, but I get,
Yeah.
like he was cut out because we can talk about that later too. But it all works, and it was a really really great ride and a great theater experience. And my biggest takeaway from this movie is that I think that they nailed the characters and they nailed the important characters. They focused more on Reed Richards and Susan Storm, um, versus I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from The Thing, a little bit more from The Human Torch.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
you mentioned those Tim Story movies, and in those Chris Evans, Michael Chiklis movies, The Thing and Human Torch steal the show. Like it's their movies, and Reed and Sue, I think, were undercooked and underdone. So just like the new Superman movie, they really focus on Clark and Lois, and they're like, we got to get the character of Clark Kent right. We got to get
Mhm.
Superman right. Then with future stuff, you can, I think spend more time with characters like Lois Lane or the rest of the Daily Planet staff or Mon Pa Kent or whatever, whatever you
Yeah.
want to do. Um, but I think that both of these films knew who to focus on. And so as a Fantastic Four fan, I'm very, very happy with how the movie turned out. And I'm very happy with how people seem to be responding to it.
Yeah, when I was doing my review, which you can read on nerdist.com, um, eh, I was, going through the cast list and stuff like that as you do when you
Yeah.
bring that stuff up when you write something. And I was like actually really shocked at how small the cast is. There's
Yes.
really not that there's the four obviously main people. You
Huh?
have Ralph Fiennes as Galactus, you
Mm-hmm.
have Julia Garner as Shalabal,
Mm-hmm.
you have uh, Sarah Niles as the head or the CEO or whatever of the Future Foundation. You have Mark Gatiss as the talk show host. And then you have Paul Walter Hauser as Mole Man. And that's
Yep.
kind of it. And then there's like
Yeah.
people who say things in the background or whatever. But
Yeah,
that's
then
like,
there's, like, the voice
it's
of Herbie, if that
right.
even is a voice actor, like, Herbie's kind of a character, like, that's it,
That's
that's
it.
it.
It's such a small, and then, spoil again, we're in spoiler territory.
Okay, great,
But
spoilers.
But Franklin Richards is a
Yeah,
huge part of it. It's, the opening scene is Sue finds out she's pregnant, and then Galactus wants Franklin. Obviously, we know from as comic fans that he is an intensely powerful being, um, which is part of this movie. Um, but he ends up being basically like the MacGuffin of the movie is that they
mhm,
just need to get Franklin, and the fact that it's a baby and in fact their child is like this moral conundrum. But I was just like, there's really nobody in this movie. Like it's
mhm,
when I even think compared to Thunderbolts, which had
mhm,
which was relatively small compared to like Avengers movies, and certainly like Captain America Brave New World, which is a mess, but has a billion characters in it.
mhm,
Um, I was kind of shocked. I was like, it feels very small. And I feel like um if we hadn't had that United Nations scene or whatever, where
Right.
the different members of the different countries are like talking to each other. You could almost believe that Earth 828 just is Manhattan and nothing else, because
You're
it's I
right.
mean, it is the Jack Kirby
Right.
universe.
Right.
So,
It's like a
um
battle world,
yeah.
piece of an Earth, and it's just retro future Manhattan.
Yeah. So I was very surprised about that, but that is like, if you wanna get people to care about your characters, have them talk to each other. Don't have just random things. But I completely agree that, like, I felt Ben was especially underserved, like, of
Mhm.
the 4, because at
Mhm.
least Johnny got to be, I think clunkily,
Mhm.
this is one of my complaints of the movie, is that Johnny gets to be the exposition guy about Silver Surfer. It's like,
Yep.
we see him trying to, um parse out, translate these messages, and
Mhm.
yet and then he's translating stuff, and then suddenly he's written an A&E biography episode about her, and it's like, when did this happen? When did you have time to do all this?
Sure. Sure.
But I think Ben was like really, like, I would have loved more scenes between him and Natasha Lyonne. I would have loved just
Yeah.
kind of, there's that one shot of like him looking at the TV screen
Loved it.
of his old face, and then, but that's such a huge part of who Ben Grimm is the fact that he's not human anymore, and they really just don't do much with it.
Yeah.
Um, it was weird to me too that, like, yeah, they cut out, because the whole beginning of it is just like, here's them fighting all of their villains from the comics in sequence. Like, we start with Mole
Right.
Man, and we get, like,
Right.
go up to Galactus, who is literally 4 years into the comics.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I would have liked to see more of that. This movie's only an hour 55 only. It's not like it's but like,
Mhm. I
how much
think
did they need to cut out? Like,
right.
it could have been 2:15, and it would have felt like more of everything
It
got
it
fleshed out more.
it could have been 2 hours, 15 minutes, and we could be sitting here talking about, like, "Oh, man, this one moment with Ben really, really was emotional," or, "Oh, this moment with Johnny was so funny." Yeah, I agree, and I think, like, I think that again, for them to focus on Reed and Sue was more important, because I do think that the casting for Ben and Johnny are great. I
They're
think those
great.
actors,
Yeah.
they're wonderful. Um, but, when I think about my favorite Fantastic Four moments, like This Man, This Monster, that can make me cry just thinking about them, just like this beautiful little self-contained story about heroism and Ben Grimm. Ben makes me cry. He's my favorite member of the Fantastic Four, and I'm like, yeah, his character wasn't there for that in this movie. He's like the fun uncle. That's what him and Johnny are kind of doing. And I love the Johnny arcs where he is this like really irresponsible guy, but then he kind of pulls it together and his sister tells him, like in the Mark Waid comics run, we need you to be the CEO of the Fantastic Four Industries or whatever. This is a real responsibility. And he steps up and he solves some problems. I love that too. And I think he does that in this movie, but maybe we could have had a little bit more of Johnny the jackass in the beginning. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Johnny the womanizer a little bit so that when his family is looking at him like, "You thought you had a moment with this alien being," that it would maybe, I know what's funny about that. I I know who Johnny Storm is, but maybe it would have landed a little bit better. But then again, this whole movie too, like, it's not made in a vacuum. They are basing this off of what came before. Maybe
Mhm.
not so much the Josh Trank movie. I feel like so many things about that film were misguided, but the Chris Evans, Michael Chiklis era, like, I just rewatched Rise of the Silver Surfer, and a lot of the story beats are similar to this. So even just the, like, idea of, like, well, it's not Norin Rad, it's Shalabal Silver Surfer. We're gonna have Johnny be the one who thinks he has a moment with Silver Surfer versus if it's Norin Rad, a male Silver Surfer, Susan may have been that character again. That's kind of what they tried with the Jessica Alba version.
Mhm.
And because that's what it is in the comics, in the original comics. So all of this is like but the problem is, and I was just talking about this on the Heroes Reforged podcast with my buddies, is that when you have the prior Marvel movie era and they kind of do something, do they do it well enough that, like, if the MCU or Marvel Studios tries to redo it, will it seem redundant? Will it
Mhm.
seem like, ugh? But then again, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer came out like 18 years ago or something. Like, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
actually, that was a long time ago. The first one came out 20 years ago. Anyway, it makes me think about how, like, the Ben Affleck Daredevil was all over the place, but they did kind of correctly do the origin of Matt Murdock. So then when they're doing the TV show, it's just the first 2 episodes, it's some flashbacks, it's, in a TV show format, it's gonna make it automatically different. But the Fox X-Men movies tried the Dark Phoenix story twice. And I still believe that Marvel Studios is going to try their version of it at some point in the next phase, in the next era, because it's just like,
Yeah,
it's too good, Kyle. It's too good of a thing to just leave there and not do anything with Jean Grey and not do anything with the Phoenix Force. And so when we get to that in I don't know how many years' time, will we be looking back and going, boy, this feels a lot like X-Men The Last Stand? Probably not.
probably not.
But that's the issue with, like, when I don't know. I can make a similar connection to, I feel like right now Warner Brothers is maybe dealing with a similar issue with Matt Reeves did the Batman. We're trying to do our own thing. Everybody wants Robert Pattinson to just stay Batman, but that world doesn't really work. But like Warner Brothers committed to doing this sort of mini movie franchise. And Kyle, I know you love the Batman directed by
I
Matt
do.
Reeves. I
Yeah,
love the Penguin series. Like, I'm
yeah.
happy that it exists, but you're gonna now you have this confusion, this audience confusion where people are going, well, just connect them. It's like, dude, the world that James Gunn set up in Superman is 0% the same world, could ever be the same world as what Matt Reeves did in his Gotham. It's just such a different tone and a different world. So, it's a little bit of a hurdle, I think. But
Mhm.
anyway, I think that First Steps still did Galactus and Silver Surfer so well that no one's gonna bring up the Cloud. No one's gonna bring up the, you
Oh,
know, the
100% no. Like,
100%, but it's just like, yeah, it's anyway, I'm still just so happy with that execution, but, you know, we've tried it before and we'll just do it better now.
yeah. I was sort of, based on what people were, kind of hinting at in the lead up to the movie, that's why I was sort of like, I hadn't read all 10 years of the Lee Kirby stuff, but I'd read a lot of it. I read
Mhm,
all the big stuff, the Galactus trilogy is incredible.
mhm.
I love Kirby's depiction of the Silver Surfer and all that stuff. I love all that stuff. And then I read, Fantastic Four Life Story, which is a really beautiful kind of
Very
thing,
cool.
which does I think kind of pull from the fact that Galactus is coming and we have years to kind of wait, or however long, a year I think
Yeah,
is ultimately what it is.
yeah.
Um, is a really interesting kind of concept, but really that's it. I was kind of surprised, because I read the Wade run, which I loved, and
Mhm,
then I've almost finished the Hickman run, and we were talking about this, internally, with like Eric Diaz, is
mhm.
was really surprised that there wasn't the Council of Reeds or stuff like that, and
Oh,
I kind of was not. I think that, like, I thought that would have been too much for this movie. Like, this movie again is very simple. It is doing the Kirby
yep,
thing. Like, it is
yep,
just Jack Kirby world. I think
yep.
there will be a Council of Reeds going forward, if not in Doomsday, certainly in Secret Wars.
That's a great point. Yeah, and I think I'm also with you on this. I think Eric Diaz is wrong. Eric, you're wrong.
Called out.
Yeah. No, but I feel like Council of Reeds does feel like a movie 3 concept.
Yeah.
Go like to relate it to the X-Men, and we can talk about what Kevin Feige has been saying about
Yeah. There's a
that,
lot of stuff. Lots of stuff.
where I feel like so many people just know X-Men the animated series, love it, rightfully so. They love that '90s era. They love Jubilee, they love Wolverine in that yellow suit, they love Gambit, they love Rogue. So I feel like they think that, like, Marvel Studios doing the X-Men is just gonna be that. But I feel like I've mentioned this in a last appearance on this
I think
very
probably.
show,
Yeah.
but, like, I feel as though the '90s X-Men era really feels like a part 3
Yeah.
because there's very important eras before that. There's that, I don't wanna say First Class because now people think of that movie, but, like, that
We'll
Scott,
call it the
Jean,
X Factor class.
the X Factor, which yeah, right, they
Yeah.
spin off into the X Factor when they graduate high school, but that, like, high school kids, those 5 kids that first dress up like the X-Men, that first fight terrorist Magneto, and then there's that '70s era where, like, everybody but Cyclops left, and then Cyclops goes, "I need to bring in more people," and then it's international. And I feel like those 2 major steps, it's the same thing with, like, Marvel Studios did an entire World War II Captain America movie before they just went straight to, here's Cap in the modern day. He was frozen from World War, like, because you need to like ease into that kind of stuff with audiences. And so I think with Fantastic Four, Council of Reeds, same thing. I think it was smart, and you need to ease into that kind of stuff. And I think going back to what Kevin Feige has been saying, everybody's freaking out about recasting Tony and Steve. And I saw that on the internet. I'm like, wait, what? Kevin Feige said that they're going to recast Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. That can't be right. Then I actually read the article. I'm so frustrated by this. This is the other thing I brought up to you
Yeah.
at that Fantastic Four screening. I'm like, when Deadline writes these articles, they kind of know what they're doing or they don't, where they're in their paragraph, they're setting up a question or like an idea. But what about recasting iconic characters like Iron Man or Captain America Steve Rogers? Kevin Feige says yes and no. And then it goes to like Kevin Feige's quote, and he goes, well, you're going to see some recasting of some iconic characters. You'll see it in X-Men. That's where you will see it. And I read that and I went, yeah, dude, he's not going to recast Tony Stark. He's not going to recast Steve Rogers. I will say that when
I think
he
eventually he will. Like,
I don't, dude.
really ever. You don't think
Ever,
ever.
ever,
Interesting.
ever, ever. I don't think ever. Now, could they bring back Robert Downey Jr. as a Tony Stark from a universe where he didn't die? Sure. Could they bring back Chris Evans as a Captain America when he's still young from when, before he gets older? Sure. But I think that the other thing that sort of threw me, but I want more of that clarification if they can get it, because Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and these sorts of the leadership at a house like this, at a studio like this, they're not going to lay out all their cards on the table. So
Sure.
if
Oh,
they
yeah, of course.
if an interviewer comes up and says follow up on that in that Deadline article, you said you were yes and no, and we're going to see it in the X-Men. Are you going to pointedly, flat out recast Steve Rogers? He might go, well, I don't want to say because that might spoil like a story that we're working on, right? But he did say that they're looking at like singular timelines of singular characters that they might reboot or re-energize or whatever. And I don't know if that means what it kind of has meant in the comics and Marvel Comics in some capacity. Spider-Man has had his reality sort of rewritten. He
Mhm.
had his marriage erased by Mephisto. It's crazy. Comic books are nuts. Comic books are wild. But everything else in the Marvel universe like stayed the same. So it was only reshaping. But then again, Spider-Man Peter Parker kind of dealt with that in his last movie. Doctor Strange
Mhm.
wiped everyone's memory of Spider-Man being Peter Parker. So there's kind of a precedent already, but I don't know if that means we're going to recast. But to me, when I read, you'll see that in X-Men, to me, that was Kevin Feige saying, it's not Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. It's not Ian McKellen as Magneto. You will see new actors play those characters because Marvel Studios, the Sacred Timeline, they don't have their mutants yet, right? Like I've said before, the multiverse is just a great excuse, the multiverse saga, to bring back those actors to have fun and have those moments pop and do some emotional stuff. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, oh my gosh, the nostalgia. This is amazing. They're unfairly doing stuff that Into the Spider-Verse couldn't really, but Into the Spider-Verse could also do stuff that Marvel Studios could never do. And right, and so Sony Animation, they made the best Spider-Man movies. Period. Their two animated films are the best ones. But yeah, I really don't think we're going to get a new Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. I don't see the reason for it other than, well, Hector, those are popular characters. Yeah,
Oh, I
dude,
mean,
but
that's true. Like,
like
yeah.
sure, but this isn't James Bond, dude. This isn't
Right.
I just think that Marvel knows and they understand that like they are more than just Iron Man. Before the Iron
Mhm.
Man movie, everybody thought Marvel was just Spider-Man and Wolverine and Hulk since the 70s. They're the three most popular characters. And now look what they did. So James Gunn is doing the same thing at DC, man. He knows that these other characters should be built up because they're fantastic characters. And you can make a franchise out of Mr. Terrific. And you can build up Green Lantern again. And we'll ease into that with this type of character with Guy Gardner. So that way, when you meet John and Hal, you go, I like these two guys. I don't like Guy. Exactly. That's exactly how you should feel. Guy Gardner is a dick. It's perfect. It's great. Let's ease into it. So yeah.
By the way, I love that you asked Nathan Fillion, "Are you excited for Batman to punch you in the
Oh,
face?"
and he
Like,
and he and he pivoted from that quick. He
very
he
quickly.
like
Yeah.
which
Wouldn't
means
that be
yes,
great?
James Gunn has told him. James Gunn has told him, and it might even happen in like whenever they cast a Batman. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna happen soon. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really intrigued. So there's a few quotes that I also want to talk about with Kevin Feige, but like, So before we move on to that stuff, let's a little more first step stuff. I think the best sequence in the movie by
Mhm.
far is the middle chunk when they go into space to track down
100%.
Galactus. It is the
100%.
middle, like 40 minutes of the movie.
Bro, you were sitting next to me. I don't know if you could tell, I was grabbing my
Yeah.
seat, like,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
stressful. It's interstellar. Then she's giving birth. Then,
Yeah. A
it's
zero
like,
gravity birth
oh
scene
my god. And
with the
Silver
Silver
Surfer
Surfer surfing on like
in the hyperspace, like, faster than
God
light.
dang,
It
man.
was terrifying.
Yeah.
She was super scary, like, Galactus was scary. It was all great.
That
I
was one
just
of my
thought,
favorite, like, because
yeah.
I've heard people say like, oh, well, first of all, I love the fact that Ralph Ineson was physically Galactus. They did
Mhm.
shoot him on miniature sets, like that's super cool. But I also really liked when the Silver Surfer like, you were gonna meet Galactus, you should never
Mhm.
have come, like all that stuff.
Mhm.
And they go into that chamber and then just the lights start going and you just see how big he is. It's just I thought that was like an incredible use of scale and like texture too. They did a really good job of making it feel
Yes.
textured.
And
So anyway,
we saw it in
yeah,
IMAX,
we did.
and I
Yeah.
still haven't seen it. I'm going this weekend. I can't wait to see it in 3D, dude, because like, there are some sequences, and especially that zero gravity birth. I can't wait to see that placenta floating in 3D,
Hell
dude.
yeah,
It's gonna be
dude.
so sick. There's no placenta. It was
No.
a very clean Hollywood birth.
Yeah.
That was actually, it was
It
so
actually
funny. That
had
was,
more like because when babies are born, they're kind of gray.
yes, that's
There
true.
was more of that than I expected, but
Yeah, that's true. I was like, "Oh, that's a just born baby." I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"That's CG?" But oh, that's
What
pretty good.
movie?
That's
I
a
was
just
just
born
reading
baby.
about a movie where there was a baby in the movie, and so they cast the baby before it was born. They basically found a pregnant woman and
Whoa.
were like,
Whoa, hey, we're filming in 3 months.
and I
Right,
think
that's
she was having
crazy.
twins for that purpose, like
That's
not for that
crazy.
purpose. Like she wasn't,
Yeah, for
but
the movie.
for the movie. But they were like, okay, can we use your babies? And they did,
That's amazing.
just so that they weren't too big. I can't remember what movie that was, but um, I think they did. I think that whole sequence is incredible. And then
I
like
agree.
just one of my favorite things about more recent comics, the Wade run and the Hickman run, is
Mhm.
that Reed literally feels the weight of everything on him at all
Love it.
times. And they did,
Love it.
and Pedro Pascal maybe is. I mean, he's incredible. He's in so many things, and he somehow
Yes.
is great in everything, which drives me insane. Also, he went to high school with Eric Diaz. Did you know that?
That's right. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's very weird. Eric has pictures of them at
Eric
like a
won't shut
party.
up about it.
I
No.
know. Well, he even says like, if you'd have told me when I was a kid that
I know, I love that.
that I would be writing this much about Peter Balmacera, I would have
Yeah.
really. So anyway, um, I think by far Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal, like they fucking owned this movie. And
Yeah.
and the other two guys
Yeah.
are obviously great, but they had kind of a different task. They were the funny
Yep.
two.
Yep.
Um and
I
they were
agree.
great too, but like I definitely was on board with Reed and Sue's relationship, as it should be. Like Sue is the
Mhm.
most powerful member of the FF, and this
Mhm.
movie actually showed that, which was
I
really
mean, she had cheer-worthy moments. She
totally.
had, like, it is, I think it's also it's a tricky balance because Sue is this loving character, and she is a woman, and she's a mom, and she's a wife, and a sister, but she's also because the comic books have been going for decades, like, I feel like she's a fully formed character, and she's got a lot of different angles to her and a lot of different perspectives, that you can kind of read with, Susan Storm. But those previous Fantastic Four movies, the Jessica Alba version, it's not that actor's fault at all. It's the way those movies are written are so thin for this woman character. She just wants to date her ex again, Reed Richards. She just wants to get married in the second movie. Like, it feels so stereotypical. And I
Yeah.
think that it's a tricky balance to be like, but this character from the comic, she is a mom. She is a wife. That's a big part of who this character is. But she is also this superhero, explorer, adventurer, cutting edge scientist. Like, she's so brave. She has so much compassion. And I think that Vanessa Kirby brought all that. And I think the script really brought all that too. I mean, like the scene where she comes out and faces the world that wants her to give up her baby. And then the writing and the performance there gets that crowd to change their mind, because she goes, I'm not going to give up my child for Earth, but I'm not gonna give up Earth for my child.
Mhm.
Just like, whoa, what a banger of a line. That's awesome. What a hero,
Yeah.
dude. She's so, so good. So love Susan and love the way that she was portrayed in this movie.
Yeah, and I also love that she kind of goes, "I hate to read, like, I hate that you think of all these
I
horrible
know.
things."
It hurts me something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it has an effect on me. Oof, man.
yeah.
It's true.
Reed Richards is such a great character, and, like, often he is portrayed as, like, and there's a reason why Rick from Rick and Morty is Reed
Mm.
Richards coded, is because like,
Mhm,
he could
mhm.
easily be bad, and
Yep,
in a lot of comics, he is. Like,
yep,
other universe versions of Reed are not particularly nice
yep,
people.
yep.
The
And him
Council
and
of
and
Reeds.
and him and Tony Stark and Hank Pym, they got up to some no good shenanigans in
Oh, yeah.
Civil War. We all read it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
made some bad calls, some very bad calls, you
Yeah.
know.
Illuminati's really like, "Oh, boy. You
Yeah.
guys are doing some shady stuff."
Oof, oof. T'Challa was like, I'm not in this. I'm not doing
Yeah.
this. You guys can't do this."
Yeah. But it's so funny to me that, like, it's always like, there's a huge chunk of the Krakoa era. I mean, I think it's a Hickman thing too, but like the
Mhm.
Krakoa era of X-Men that he began, like Professor X is not particularly like he and
Yes.
Magneto are in it
Charles.
together like
Yep,
pretty
yep, yep,
early on. So
yep.
I find that stuff really interesting. But
Me
um
too. I'd love to see some of that stuff. I still remember that astonishing X-Men run where it was revealed that Charles Xavier had developed the Danger Room, and it was sentient, and it was AI, and imprisoned the Danger Room so he could keep training his kids and his superhero. Like, I was like, "That's such a great idea to show how Charles Xavier, like, if it's a means to an end, he will do it," and
these are
that's
like
very interesting character. Yeah.
these are greater good people. Like
Yes.
it's would you sacrifice the few for the many?
Where
Uh,
Steve Rogers is the "we don't trade lives" vision.
Exactly.
Like,
And that's
like,
why the
"Okay,
Civil War, like, I don't
yeah.
like the execution of Civil War is whatever. But I think idealistically
Yeah, it
in the
works.
comics, it makes
It's
perfect
great.
sense
It's
why
really
that
great,
would
yeah.
happen.
Yeah, it's great.
Um, but yeah, so ultimately I think like I kind of think as much as I loved seeing Galactus trudge, like break stuff, be a kaiju basically, I do think that sequence was a little like foregone conclusion-y at the moment. Like
Mhm,
him coming down was great, but it's just like, all right,
mhm.
I know you're gonna win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
kind of ceased to be
Yep.
all that exciting. But I think ultimately I thought it was really good. But then that leads us to, of course, the kind of Doctor Doominess of it all, because
Doomsday.
Doomsday is the next big movie. Like
Mhm.
I forgot until just yesterday that they switched the release order. So actually
Yeah.
Spider-Man's coming out first and then
Yep.
Doomsday, which I think is
Yep.
good. You need
Yep.
to have something in between.
Yep.
Um, but so the post credit scene is that Doctor Doom, we don't see his face,
Mhm.
comes and sees Franklin when he's 4 years old.
Mhm.
Um, and we see early in the movie that the representative of Latveria is absent, which is a very Doctor Doomy thing. He would not go to those things.
Mhm.
Um, so it's sort of obviously Doctor Doom is the Fantastic Four villain, and he's maybe one of the best villains. I think we talked about this before, but like, um, the Fantastic Four have the best roster of villains that have not been used yet. Like,
Yeah. That's an excellent, opinion, and I agree with it.
yeah, like, I mean, we see Mole Man, but like some of the ones that they just call out, like,
Mhm.
the Wizard, I think is a really interesting character. The Mad Thinker is a really interesting character.
Yep.
A Nihilist, like you can go really
Yep.
weird and spacey with a lot of this stuff.
Mhm.
But Doctor Doom is Doctor Doom. Like mixing magic and science, and uh, so I obviously they do need Doctor Doom. But then I'm going to quote Kevin Feige directly because I think that's the nice thing to do. But he his quote was that they were gonna pivot away from Kang even before they knew that Jonathan Majors was a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah,
I
I don't know if I
don't
buy
think
that.
that's true. I
Yeah.
don't believe it. Why would they
I
have put the Council of Kang scene in if they were
Right.
gonna not
I
do it?
I I don't think I buy it only because, I mean, I think that they did such an amazing job building up Thanos into a household name that I wouldn't have put Thanos on the same level as Doctor Doom in the
Ever. Yeah,
comics.
absolutely not.
I'm like pop culturally, like even just like the threat that they might pose, I feel like Doom is gonna be a little bit higher than Thanos, even though Thanos in the comics does wipe out half of all life in the universe. Um, but I always assumed like, oh, they're doing Kang for the multiverse saga, so they can spend years, maybe up to 10 years, just doing this character to space out, to like take their time with before even getting to Doctor Doom, before getting to the X-Men, before getting to the Fantastic Four, and all that entails. So I don't know if I fully buy that, but I do think that it is pretty good PR. It's pretty smart PR,
Yeah.
to say, "Hey, we were already clocking this that it wasn't quite up to that Thanos level, and since we got the rights to Doctor Doom, that's what made us go, okay, that's what we should do." And I get that, but I also feel like you guys didn't do Norman Osborn in Spider-Man: Homecoming. You did Vulture, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm like, I don't think you wanted the comparison to Willem Dafoe. And you didn't do Doc Ock. You waited, you waited, you waited, and then again used the multiverse saga as an excuse to bring back some of those actors before doing your own version of the stuff. And I'm not saying that they were holding off on Doctor Doom because they're like, well, people are going to be talking about Julian McMahon's performance, who just recently passed away, R.I.P. Who had a very campy Doctor Doom in those first two movies,
Mhm.
or Toby Kebbell, who I thought was like underutilized in that Josh Trank Fantastic Four. I don't think that's the case, but I just felt like, well, why pull the trigger on that if you don't have a fully cooked and baked Fantastic Four set up? Like, you have to set that stuff up, and we want to see Reed and Victor's flashbacks in college. We want to, see all that stuff, and then for them to pivot and go. I know Feige said I was already talking with Robert Downey Jr. before Ant-Man 3 even came out. I was like, that's crazy.
And
You are
also,
like,
no,
what?
you were not. Like,
That's wild.
that would have meant that uh they were talking to him. Endgame came out in 2019, the end of 2019. That means they would have been talking to him in 2021. No, no,
Because
because they
because
that
Ant-Man came out, was it 2023 or
early
22?
2023, but it was supposed to come out in 2022.
You're right, you're right, you're right. So, yeah, like, they're talking to him 3 years later in 2021, 2022, like, "Hey, you should be Doctor
I
Doom. You should
simply
come back
don't
and do."
buy it. Like, I just
Yeah, and I think because, uh, Robert Downey Jr. feels so stunt casty that I
Mhm.
can't that casting announcement didn't make me go, "Oh, perfect, they're gonna do this story. Oh, perfect, that has this precedent in the comic books. They're gonna do this emotional beat. It's all for Peter Parker. It's all for this. It's all for that. Oh, how cool. They're gonna do that one what if storyline where, Doctor Doom and Iron Man, like, changed roles or whatever." Like, no, it didn't make me think that. It just made me think, "Oh, you guys are pivoting from an actor who's got a very bad reputation, who you were building up as the main villain, the main, thing that you cannot go forward with, and you want to put asses in seats, not based on the character name, but on what all audiences around the world know. And they know Robert Downey Jr., and they know Marvel. And to hear him coming back, my mom found out about it. Everybody found out
Oh,
about it.
yeah.
So
That was
that's what they
huge.
wanted. It's a
Yeah.
wrestling stunt. It's a when a lineup like gets canceled and you fail to deliver, you have to announce something that's even bigger than your previous match. That's a wrestling technique, I've been told. I don't watch wrestling, but that's a
No, yeah.
wrestling thing, a promotional wrestling thing. And I don't think it's dumb. I think it's very smart, but don't try to tell me that this is for like
Yeah.
the this is for like the character, or this is for like the story of like, oh, the multiverse saga really needed Doom. I'm like, okay, maybe, but
Yeah.
you know,
And then at the same time, he was saying stuff like, why some of these early movies haven't performed as well. And he said that it was the number of things that came out. Obviously, there was a ton of stuff, but I think he's
mhm,
just sort of using that. It's that expansion, quoting. It's that
mhm,
expansion that I think led to people to say, do I have to see all these? It
mhm,
used to be fun, but now do I have to know everything about all of these? And the Marvels hit it hardest, where people are like, okay, I recognize her from a $1 billion movie, but who are these other two? I guess they were on a TV show. I'll skip
mhm,
it.
mhm.
Um, so then he's saying we're gonna do that so you don't have to have homework anymore. But then, like, you look at the cast of Doomsday, and
Mhm,
it's a ton of people who were in movies 20 years ago that were in a
mhm.
completely different universe. And it's just like, I don't and there's everybody who's ever been in anything.
Mhm.
Like, again, it's like, I don't understand how you can say both things. And like, the
Yeah.
back to, what he said about Kang, like, if in fact you were right and you were thinking of pivoting away from Kang before Ant-Man 3 came out, that was the first appearance of Kang as Kang. Like,
Mhm.
before that, he was He Who Remains just in Loki. Like, and you had already filmed season 2, or going to film season 2 of Loki, where he was a big character. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just is like, both things can't be true. Like, they
I know. I think this is also another case, Kyle, of, like, I do think there is some truth to that. there's some truth to, like, we have begun making our movies and TV shows feel like too much homework. Feige said
For
that
sure.
in an interview a couple of months ago or a year or something ago, where he was like, "I felt like I had to watch homework to sort of watch everything," versus the specialness of, "Oh my gosh, there's a new show on Disney Plus that's a MC that's like a Marvel thing. Marvel Studios did it. Oh man, I'm gonna watch it." Um, but the problem is that those shows, as much as I really enjoyed pretty much all of them, they are using characters that's like, well, we're gonna use this character because maybe they're not worthy of like a movie. And listen, Netflix, ABC Television did the same thing 10 years ago with their Defender stuff. I think Daredevil is absolutely worthy of a movie, and so is Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Punisher, sure. But like the way they approach those characters, they're like, this is street level. This is, they'll work better in this TV format than trying to make a $200 million Luke Cage movie or $150 million Iron Fist movie or whatever. But they're doing the same thing now, and we're getting like Moon Knight and Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk and Ironheart. And I love these characters, or Agatha or whatever. I
Mhm.
love these characters. It is also unfortunate that it's a lot of these characters that are like non-white, they're non-male, non-hetero sometimes. It's like it sucks because it can give fuel to some shitty fire that exists on the internet where they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna tune into this because it's this." Well, actually, the reason you're not tuning into it is because 'cause you're bigoted. But now you're saying, like, Marvel isn't putting as much like, would Marvel Studios with Disney Television, would they have done like a Tony Stark TV show? Probably not, because we understand the logistics of that. We understand where that
Mhm.
character is. We understand how expensive that would be, yada, yada, yada. But they did do a Captain America show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a Captain America show to
Mhm.
varying degrees of success, whatever you think. And they put Tom Hiddleston Loki in a show, and they put, so there's some big name stuff there. But all of this to say, like, it does feel like with so many shows coming out each year and 3 movies, that you remove some of that specialness of, oh, a one TV show on Disney Plus this season or this year, or, oh, this is one of the 2 movies that's coming out this year. It's pretty easy for me to catch up. In 2012, it was easier for audiences to be all the way caught up on everything Marvel. It was 5 movies. So they could go see Avengers, they could rent them, they could go see Avengers, done. But in 2019, it was harder, but then again, you get better payoff with stuff, with all the characters in Endgame or all the characters in Infinity War. So they wanna do that, and I think it's a bit of PR where Feige is saying this without saying, but also the quality of these shows and movies were lesser.
Yeah,
And it is important to still point out, like, dude, they were interrupted by a global pandemic.
of
We get
course,
that.
yeah.
I get it. Then they were interrupted by corporate greed because of the strikes. The heads of these studios and different, like, they decided, nope, we're just pausing, and we're gonna force these actors and writers to pause work because of the unfair conditions. And that sucks too. So all of this stuff was delayed, 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 and I'm sure affected, and I'm sure, and I know that people have their opinions about Kevin Feige, but I also truly think that, like, as a producer, as a creative producer, that he will come in sometimes like a ninja and provide one little piece of feedback and really make a movie better
Mhm.
and really make a TV show better, whatever the case may be. WandaVision was his idea. He was like, this could be a show that is a throwback to old school television sitcoms. And he got the idea from reading Tom King's The Visions. He was like, this is so great. And what a cool flavor. Maybe we could do something like this with WandaVision instead of television. Anyway, I think that when you are so spread thin, that even Kevin Feige wasn't able to check in on every single
Mhm.
script, pre-development, post, just the filming, post-production. Like, yeah, so a lot of the stuff suffered in quality. So instead of him saying, yeah, our quality's dipped, we're spread too thin, I think he's saying, well, we're making it like homework, because he's not going to say that, WandaVision and Ms. Marvel are not as good as Endgame or whatever. He's not going to do that. He's not going to say that. Anyway, I'm getting away from it. But the point is, there's a lot of PR stuff here happening, and I think that there's a part of that is true, that that feeling needs to, it's such a tricky balance, Kyle. It's the whole James Gunn keeps talking about it too. He goes, "I don't wanna make any audience member feel like it's homework, but I want to reward the audiences that are here and they're invested." Okay? I don't think he's gonna make Supergirl feel like, "Did you see Superman? because it's gonna have its own flavor, and the
Mhm.
Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic definitely has such a strong story in its own flavor. However, people are rewarded when they go see Superman and then she appears at the end. And, Crypto and Supergirl moving into the next project is what these should be. And James Gunn said, I don't want to do a tease unless we know we're about to deliver it. And he's basically calling out, we haven't seen Hercules in years. We haven't seen, you know what I mean? Like we haven't even seen
Pl
like what the
Yeah,
10 rings mean. We haven't seen Eros at the end of Eternals. We haven't seen Erishim return to
yeah,
cast judgment. Like it's tough. You want to provide great, compelling moments and sometimes cliffhangers. And the end of Far From Home had a great cliffhanger where his identity gets revealed. Spider-Man is Peter Parker.
sure.
But at that point, they knew that that's what they were gonna roll into in the next film. So, hey, wait a couple years, but we are gonna pay this off. Okay, cool. Dude, I wanna see Hercules. I wanna see that character fight Thor. I wanna see Eros, Star Fox, doing something with Pip the Troll, doing something with who was it that they encountered? Was it like Makari? Some of the other Eternals that went off into space. I think Makari was one of them. Druig, whatever. The point is, I want to
Yeah,
see these characters again and not
yeah,
have just these off of a cliff cliffhangers that you never know. And Feige said in that same interview, he goes, "Well, some of these might be Tim Blake Nelson, the leader, 17 years later." And I'm like, "No, dude, don't do that. Don't do it unless there's a great fun opportunity with the guy who the actor from Community who also was at MIT when Tony Stark came and did a speech. He's at the beginning of Ironheart. Great. Great. I wasn't waiting for that character to come back
right.
around,
I did
but
not
they
expect that
utilized him.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah, awesome. So if there's something they can pull, and I think they're going to take that original villain from the first Iron Man movie, and he might be in an upcoming project. I forget what it is. Maybe Armor Wars or maybe Wonder Man. Something. The guy who was maybe killed by Obadiah Stane, but turns out maybe he's not. Great, use that stuff. But don't leave me with like are we going to see Charlize Theron, Clea again? Like she showed up with a very important, urgent mission.
yeah.
Like we need to pay that off in the next movie or sooner rather than later. So,
And it really just feels like, like,
hmm
why would you cast Charlize Theron if you weren't gonna actually do something with her? Why would you cast Harry Styles if you weren't actually gonna do something with
yeah,
it?
man, yeah,
And then in that interview, like somebody said, "Will we see these characters again?" And his response was, "Well, do you want to see them again?" It's like
yeah,
it doesn't matter whether we do or we don't. Like you teased that they were coming, like,
yeah.
and it's been years. Like
Yeah,
Dan,
like what is Kevin Feige expecting that the reporter goes, I don't really want to see Harry Styles again, and Kevin Feige goes, okay, that's good feedback, that's good notes, then we won't bring him back. It's like what? You spent so much money hiring him, casting him, putting a costume together. Like don't be coy and go, well, do you want to see? Like you tell us, dude. You're the tastemaker. You're the guys that have to show us how cool these characters are because they are, and that's your job. And you've mostly been knocking it out of the park, but
yeah,
yeah, that's very frustrating. Like, what if a guy said no? What would Feige go? He'd go, "Oh, okay, then I guess we won't bring back Hercules." Okay.
yeah, not really. Like, but yeah, it's like, why did you? I would rather nothing than these like tantalizing things because then you go, oh yeah, well, because like even the teaser at the end of Shang-Chi, where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, there's Captain Marvel and
Mhm.
Wong and all these guys, and like they're talking to Shang-Chi. He's gonna, and then it's like, oh, the next movie he's in is Doomsday. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
It was too much. It was too much. I think we can all kind of agree there was too much going on at once. I didn't mind the idea of taking characters who had already been in a bunch of stuff and giving them
Great.
shows.
Great.
Introducing new characters in shows and then
Maybe.
trying to bring them into the movie is a tougher ask. And I agree with
Yes.
what he said probably about like, because my mom is a huge fan of the first Captain Marvel movie
Mhm.
and she watched The Marvels, but she had not watched Ms. Marvel and she had
Mm.
maybe watched WandaVision, but I don't
Mhm.
remember. But so she did not know who Monica Rambeau was and did not know
Yeah.
who Kamala Khan was. And it's like,
Yeah.
that is a big part of that movie. So like,
And again,
it's,
and there's
yeah.
still also a world too, like I enjoyed the Marvels movie. I really did. I'll go
Yeah,
to
I did
bat for
too.
that
I
movie.
liked it.
But there's a world where that script is so strong that you can take somebody off the street. They haven't seen any of these movies. They didn't see the first Captain Marvel movie. They sit down and the movie shows them, maybe tells them a little bit, shows them like this is who this character is, this is who
Mhm.
Monica is, this is who Kamala is, and we're going. And that audiences will go, "Oh, that's great. Oh, wait, these characters were in TV shows? I had no idea. I'll go check those out." there's a world where that all works, and
Yeah.
we wouldn't be complaining about, oh, it's too much homework.
And I think, not to say like, James Gunn good, Kevin Feige bad. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
going to, I don't, because I don't agree with that. But it's like, I think that Gunn
Yeah,
is taking the
because
lessons that he has learned from both working
yes.
in the DCEU and in the MCU
Yes.
and is going, okay, we're going to treat these actually like comic books where
Mhm.
Mr. Terrific can just be in a Superman thing, but it's not about Mr. Terrific. So we don't need to spend a lot of time giving us his backstory.
Right.
So he's just in this movie.
Mhm.
And like you don't need to have seen everything, but like you said, like it rewards people. It's like, I know that character.
Uh-huh.
Make the character make sense within the context of this movie.
Mhm.
Because Batman, again, he could show up like you watch Batman the animated series. That's a dark show just about Batman. When Batman is in Justice League, it's the same Batman, but it's a different
Yes.
tone.
Love
So
it.
like I think there's
That's
room
the
for all of
point.
that going
Yeah,
forward. I
I agree.
think we can have, but then the question was like, so is Daredevil Born Again gonna be like, is Doomsday gonna connect or be important to that? And he just goes, no. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah,
The
because
Punisher that's in the next
sure.
Spider-Man movie is not really the Punisher that's been in the Daredevil. It's just I don't know. I think you need to choose a path. I will
Yeah.
go with you, but
Yeah.
you can't say you're going to do one thing and continue doing like, which
Yeah.
is why I'm kind of looking forward to the Secret Wars of it all. Cause it's like, here we go. Fresh start. That's what I'm hoping.
Mhm.
Whether we get
Mhm.
all of it, but it's like, you've
No, I'm
spent all this
hoping for
time.
more convoluted storytelling. I'm hoping for more, confusing casting. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, no, no.
Reference people from years ago. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, because I want young Avengers. You spent a lot of time
I
giving
know,
us
man.
beginnings of them. Like, I don't
I
know.
know.
It's
I
just,
thought for sure that was gonna be a TV show or even
I
a
did too.
movie,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I guess the Young Avengers will assemble in, like, the next Avengers movie.
I
Like, what
guess
like,
so. Yeah.
off on the side, they'll be like, "We're the Young Avengers," and Sam's team will go, "No, you can't do that.
There's
We
too
need
many
to
Avengers.
it's too dangerous. You can't do it."
Yeah.
And the Thunderbolts will go, "Well, we're the Avengers. You can't say that. You can't do that." I don't
Very
know.
good.
We'll see.
What an
Thank you.
excellent Florence Pugh impression.
Was I Florence Pugh? Was I Red Guardian? Who
This
knows?
you'll
No, I was
never
Florence
know.
Pugh. Yeah.
Were you Taskmaster? Oh, R.I.P.
Oh, R.I.P. Oh,
What a
man.
waste.
I would have liked more Taskmaster.
Yeah.
I know I'm the only person on earth that's saying that, but still, I would have.
They're still using Taskmaster in like promotional materials,
I
like
know.
for the Blu-ray coming out. It's like,
I
she's
know.
not in the movie. Just
It's
stop
such a
putting her on
bummer.
there. Um,
Yeah, real bummer. Real bummer. But
yeah,
the rest of Thunderbolts was good though. I liked it.
yeah, good movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so it's again, like we were just sort of, there's a lot of Marvel stuff coming around, even though they're not doing anything at Comic-Con. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of Marvel going around right now. So I
Yeah.
think, and I think it was, like you said, it was a PR move. I think it was smart for Kevin Feige to kind of get ahead of some of this stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I do think he saw or probably at least recognized the goodwill that James Gunn was building up for being as forthright as he is. And that's just a different,
Mhm.
you said it when we were talking the other day, but like, he's a different kind of guy than Kevin Feige is. Like, he is
Mhm.
more willing to
Mhm.
do that kind of thing anyway.
Mhm.
Um, but it definitely, it read to me less like, uh, a creative kind of just giving the fans some answers than it did a learned studio guy kind
Mhm.
of doing damage control,
Yeah, for
except
sure.
not damage control because they've
Right.
completely ignored damage control too.
Yeah. Well, the Department of Damage Control, I think they were holding Abomination, Emil Blonsky, and She-Hulk, and they were
Yeah.
in that. And anyway, yes, I think you're right, and I think it's all really hard and weird and a tricky balance. And
Mhm.
how do you talk about this stuff without mentioning like Jonathan Majors by name? And he did it. He did not mention Jonathan Majors by name. And how do you do it without acknowledging like, yeah, and our parent company was part of the reason that the strikes happened.
Yeah.
Like,
It's tough. It's
it,
tough.
it like it's all the hand that this studio has been dealt. And I'm just hoping that going forward, if I could try to end this on a very positive note,
Please. Yeah, yeah. Again, we
Fantastic
like the
Four,
movie. The movie is good.
we
The movie is good.
yes, Fantastic Four rules, dude. And Thunderbolts was really great. And I know that I enjoyed Captain America: Brave New World more than you, but I want things to go more in the direction of Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four and less in Brave New World. That if there's something that's not cooking, then hold, take your time, pause, figure it out. And that seems like what they're doing with Blade. And I know people have very strong opinions about. I've talked about this on various internet shows where the internet will go, "Don't release something unless it's ready." And then in the case of Blade, everyone's going, it's just a guy killing vampires. Let him do it. And I'm like, but you just said you want them to have a great script and to have a great idea. And it can't be a period piece anymore because Sinners came out and Sinners was awesome. So you have to do
Yeah,
something
they really
different. You know, like
took the
I
thunder
get
out of
that
that.
too. So all this to say, like, I want Marvel to basically not listen to the internet ever. The internet feedback sucks. It's not worth the internet. We on the internet right now, we're not real. It's not real people, but rather keep going to those creative inspirations of looking at Fantastic Four comics, like you were saying, Kyle, looking at the 60s stuff with Kirby and Lee and going, this stuff is so strong. What if we just did this? And
Mhm.
finding the story and finding the way logistically to make it happen. And focus less on just putting something out because we need to. And again, I think they've mostly been doing it for the past couple of years. We've heard, unfortunately, like Armor Wars is being redeveloped and figured out, and all the stuff that they announced a couple of years ago in their investor day. But I am hoping that going forward, there we go. I know I want to see Rhodey come back. I want to see Justin Hammer come back. All that stuff. It's all
Yeah.
cool. It's all great. But there's also the bigger picture of like, well, how does it fit into like the multiverse saga?
Mhm.
If we put something out and it doesn't fit, are people going to be disappointed? Like with Daredevil season 2, apparently, if it doesn't have anything to do with Doomsday, people are going to be like, well, what the heck? Why'd I watch it?
See, yeah,
So
they've spent it is a big ship. I think
yes,
that's a big
yes,
thing. And they have spent the better part of 20 years
yeah,
teaching us that everything
yep,
is connected.
yep,
And so if you want to go away from that, you need to make a big swing of it. You can't just say it doesn't matter anymore. And you can't just dump, Echo and say, "Oh, it's on its own. It doesn't need
right,
connection." And
right,
it's like
because
and
you
Ironheart for
know,
that matter. It's like
yeah, it does, and
Mephisto is in Ironheart and
I
nobody
know,
gives a
man.
shit. Like
I know. I
it
do.
blows my
I give a
mind.
shit. But I
I know
think
you
there's a
do.
way
We
I
give a
think
shit.
I think there's a way to do it, and I think that Marvel Studios has mostly been doing it. But I want them to almost get this confidence back that when they have something like Fantastic Four in theaters, and if anybody in the press asks them, "Oh, is it connected to this or this or this?" And if they want to say, "You this is a no homework movie, go see it." That it's true and the script is strong and they have that confidence. Avengers movies are different. The big crossover movies are different,
Which
but
is fine as long as we know that
fine.
that's what's happening. Yeah.
I want their next Spider-Man movie to be like that. I want their new X-Men films, whatever they're doing in that direction. And Feige said X-Men's going to be younger casted, which makes me think they are focusing on that initial class, that X factor, that, Jean and Scott, and which I'm very, very happy with. But I
Sure.
want their X-Men movie to go, yep, this has nothing to do with anything. Just go watch it. But will those characters live in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Will they make mention to the events or whatever? Sure. But there's a way to do it that doesn't turn people off or make them mad. And I'm also really hopeful about the future of DC. I'm really hopeful about, even though James Gunn has announced some stuff and we've heard that some stuff is maybe being reshuffled, I don't want him to sort of talk himself into a corner by saying, "Oh, we're doing it this way." Well, don't ever speak in absolutes. That's what the Sith do. We don't do that. We're gonna be fluid. We're gonna be able to pivot and move things around and just provide the best stories when it comes to these characters because these characters are amazing. So that's what makes me super excited about Fantastic Four and that cast and that baby might be the way we get the Fantastic Four to merge with the
Yeah.
sacred timeline.
I definitely think Franklin is going to be the thing
Yep.
for the
Yep.
next bit.
Not the Ben Grimm,
Um,
but the thing, the main thing. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Um, yeah. So I think, we don't know for sure, but I would recommend folks if you wanted to kind of get a leg up on the next two Avengers movies. I think reading the Jonathan Hickman Fantastic Four into Avengers into Secret Wars
Mhm.
is probably the way you should go.
Mhm. I agree. I agree,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, yeah, as always, Hector, like we have so much like to
We
talk
could have kept
about.
going. Yeah.
There's a lot going on. One day you should come on the
Maybe
show and talk
after
about something completely unrelated to these
Sure.
things if you
Yeah,
want
that'd be
to,
great.
but
But I was about to say, have me back for Wonder Man. Yeah, have me for a completely
absolutely, let's do
unrelated
it.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, Wonder Man, I'm very, very interested in and
me
very
too.
curious about.
Yeah.
Because we'll see how that factors into Doomsday. We shall see.
Yeah, will it?
I
Ben Kingsley weirdly is in everything. Like he
know,
just
man.
keeps being in stuff.
I know. I'm
Um,
fine with it. I'm happy
Me
with it.
too. Hector, you have a lot of different other shows. Please
Mhm.
plug them right now.
You got it. Over on YouTube, you can check out Heroes Reforged. And also on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, check out Dork Souls, where I talk about nerdy stuff with my pal Lisa Wallen, stand-up comedian. And Heroes Reforged, it's also on other platforms as well. And we're going to be running around San Diego Comic-Con at the time. By the time you're hearing this, is
It
this
will
coming
be
out
over.
before? It will
No,
be over. So
it'll
let me know what your favorite thing about San Diego Comic-Con was. Your favorite announcement. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Let me know. Drop them in the
We are
comments.
pre-recording this because of
Yeah.
Comic-Con.
Because of Comic-Con. We'll be there. Yeah.
Yeah. You got Heroes Reforged. I've never actually met your co-hosts, but I'm a big fan of
What?
all three of you guys. Yeah, I've never met them, but
Oh my gosh.
I love you. You guys do the best trailer reactions, I think, on the internet.
Thank you,
Like you
man.
guys,
Thank
that's
you.
some of the best stuff.
Thanks.
Because you guys are just so like the Superman trailer, I think is the standout one. You guys were so excited by it. And it's
Yeah.
just like you can see
It's
it in
pretty
your
good.
faces.
It's pretty good.
And you're on all the social medias as at Hector is funny, I believe, right?
That's right. Hector is funny. Or sometimes I am.
Once in a while.
Occasionally, it can happen.
You can follow me on Letterboxd, Kyle_Anderson. I've been watching a lot of weird old Italian movies, as is my want. My wife has had COVID, so I've just had time to myself watching things by myself.
Honey, are you okay? All right, I'll do another Italian movie.
Yeah,
Bring
it's
you
like, oh,
soup.
okay. It's so weird. Like, I don't know if anybody has had their significant other or whoever has had COVID and you have not.
Mhm.
That we're just like completely on other sides of the house, and it's just
Yeah.
like, hi. We wave at each other
Hi.
with masks on from across the room. It's very bizarre.
Oh, man.
But yeah, thank you again, Hector, for being on the show.
Anytime.
Thank you all for listening. I've been Kyle Anderson. Join me again next week on Laser Focus when my guest will be a different person. Bye-bye. Laser Focus is a production of Nerdist Industries and Legendary Digital Networks. It was produced, edited, and hosted by me, Kyle Anderson. For more, visit Nerdist.com.